This is NoelPlum99, and this is the barely coherent L-shaped table. Okay, this is a video response to Michael and his channel, the RationalRoundtable. I hope you don't mind me having a little bit of fun there, Michael, with my intro, just to amuse myself as much as anything else. I quite like the, I'm seem to be bathed, infused in a warm, glowing light on my webcam today. I don't quite know why that is. It seems to have a mind of its own, my webcam. I wish I could control the sodding thing, but it just seems to do whatever it wants. Quite like the lighting it's giving me today. Okay, now this is quite interesting. What I usually do, I usually end up rambling and gabbling on in videos like this, and the reason is because I try and fit them into 10 minutes. I'm not even going to attempt to fit this into 10 minutes. This is going to take as long as it takes, which probably means that you will be the only person who views the whole thing, but that's just the way it's going to be. If it takes 2 videos, if it takes 3 videos, it takes as long as it takes. So I want to get on with your arguments. I don't want to dilly-dally. Let me tell you, I very rarely make any. Occasionally I'll make a page with a few scribblings on it. Most of the time I do things entirely unscripted. You can see that today I actually have 4 pages of bits to go through because I don't want to miss anything out. You have to understand that this is obviously an idea that you've had for some considerable time, the ideas that you put forward towards the end of your video. This is something that's quite new to me, this extra dimensional idea that you've come up with. So most of my thoughts are things that I've only just had since I've watched your video last night. So I've had to write them down to make sure I don't miss anything out and to try and get them in some semblance of order. I'm not sure I've done that, but I've done the best that I can. First thing to do then is just to clarify a couple of bits from earlier on in your video. So let's deal with that now.
And then you successfully demonstrated an inconsistency in my previous video, which is at one point I stated that faith requires doubt, and as such, without doubt, you really don't have faith. And then later I said that ultimate faith, as in faith to move a mountain or a tree is the example I think Helgihg used, would require no doubt whatsoever. And I fully admit that I made a slip of the tongue here. I was trying to answer it while avoiding what's called the allegory defense. I was trying to avoid saying that, well, Jesus didn't literally mean that you could move mountains or that you could make this tree get up and walk. Rather, it was an allegory or it was a metaphor.
Now, what disconcerts me here is how easily, let me explain what I'm like, which is that I adopt a position after a great deal of thought, and once I've adopted that position, I like to think, I think absolutely around that position. And if I'm to be taken away from that position, it has to be something pretty significant to drag me away from that position. But I'm disconcerted with how easily you adopted that position, even though you didn't really actually believe it. You're telling me that actually you think these things are just allegorical, and yet you were quite happy to go on your video and represent them not as allegorical, but as being genuine. It seems that you as if you're just shifting with the wind there. That I find slightly disconcerting, and I'm surprised, having watched a number of your videos, that that's something that you've done. I know that's something that some people will do. I was surprised that that's something that you would do. I want to move on now to a misunderstanding now. You misunderstood, and I know it's not just you. I know it was at least one other person because of a comment that was made on my video thread. A misunderstanding on part of my last video reply. So I'll play your clip, and then we can go through that.
And then you also mentioned that there are Christians, particularly some of the Christians here on YouTube, that appear to have absolutely no doubt. You say that you feel that this is a weakness and that I probably would as well. I don't consider it a weakness so much as a form of self-delusion.
Okay, well, it's at that point that I need to stop you. And the reason I need to stop you is because You misunderstood what I was saying was the weakness. I wasn't saying that that the absolute nature of these people's faith is a weakness, although I think it is actually. I think you probably agree with me that to have no doubt in something, to not challenge your views is a weakness. But that wasn't what I was saying. What I was saying is that the very existence of these people is a weakness to the argument that you were giving, the argument that you've now withdrawn, you've now retracted that argument. But the argument you were making was, if only people existed who had absolutely no doubt or this absolute faith, if only these people existed, those people would be able to move mountains, uproot trees. I said to you, well, actually these people do exist. And the existence of these people is a weakness in the argument that you've given me. The argument given me relies on the fact that these people don't exist, or if these people did exist, they would be moving mountains, etc. It's a slightly moot point now because you've retracted the argument that you've made, but I did feel the need to clarify this. Right, so that deals with all of that. What I now want to go on is the real discussion, which is the soul, which is the question I brought to you. Now, I'm going to take a bit of a liberty here. Once again, I'll link up my video for anybody that hasn't watched it that wants to see the arguments that I've made. I advise them to watch it if they haven't watched it, to see the arguments fleshed out in full. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a bit cheeky here. I think you summed it up very well in just under a minute. In fact, you summed it up very well for the basis of this video. So I'm going to play you paraphrasing the arguments that I made. Then I'm going to start to go through and decipher some of it. Okay.
And so real quickly, I'll get into the points. You have 4 basic points on the non-existence of a soul. The phylogenetic problem, simply put, when did the soul evolve, or when did God decide to put souls in humans but not into other creatures? The ontogenic problem, at what point is the soul injected into us? This presents the obvious problems in the case of twins, spontaneous abortions, chimera, etc. The problem of dualistic control, how does the immaterial control the material? Why can we not detect the soul? You suggest that if the soul is materialistic in some way, then we should be able to detect it with scientific equipment, while if it's not materialistic, then it should not be able to directly impact the material world. And the problem of redundancy, based on what we already know that the brain is capable of doing, what necessary purpose could the soul possibly serve?
Okay, I'd like to thank you once again for summarising it all so succinctly. Although I categorise it into 4 arguments, in the actual video I probably make about a dozen or 20 different arguments there, but you've managed to summarise the key points very well, apart from one of them, and I don't know whether you misunderstood it or whether you've just it's just the way you've represented it in your video. But when it came to the dualistic control, you suggested that I was comparing a materialistic soul and a spiritual soul. No, I was assuming a non-materialistic spiritual soul in every single instance. What I'm saying is that the soul may be absolutely undetectable, but as soon as it tries to communicate with the materialistic world, it reveals that there's something there. It's like a stealth bomber. It's like an ultimate stealth bomber. However undetectable you make that stealth bomber to our reconnaissance planes, to our radar systems, to any way we could try and detect enemy aircraft in our territory. However well you make that ultimate stealth bomber, as soon as it drops a bomb, as soon as it tries to interact with us on the ground, it reveals that there is something up there. There is a bomb dropper. This is the thing, and this is the thing with the soul. You can make your soul entirely invisible if you like. You can invoke that kind of a soul, but as soon as you try and make it interact with the material brain, it reveals that there's something going on. We might not know the specifics of it, we may never be able to work out the details of it, but we can at least infer that there's something going on. We don't seem to be able to find that within the brain that we know of. We do not seem to be able to find that. That doesn't seem to be happening. So this is the problem. The reason I feel I've got to clear this up is because I'm going to refer back to this a little bit, because I do think that this impacts on the case that you've given me. But what is the case that you've given me? Well, I've still not even given you a chance to detail it, have I? So what I really should do is to shut up and play another clip of you detailing your argument. In fact, I've just done a quick tally of the times there, and this is probably a good time to roll it on to the next video. So you detailing your argument will be the start of part 2.